Paul was arrested. He addressed the Jews. The Jews still wanted to kill him. He remained in custody. And the Jews came up with this plot to lure Paul out, or lure the Roman guard out with Paul, and to kill Paul while Paul was on the road. He was accused of being an assassin before. Now there are people trying to assassinate him because of a gospel that proclaims life, that proclaims light in the darkness. The Jews were going to kill him. This was the plan. This was the plot. Somebody in the crowd was a friend of Paul, I think actually a family member of Paul, and they went and they warned the Roman guard about the plot against Paul's life. And so the Roman guard decides to send Paul to Felix, who is a governor, and put him on trial in order to protect him. Here we are, Acts chapter 23, verse 23. He, the commander of the guard, summoned 2 of his centurions and said, "Get 200 soldiers ready with 70 cavalry and 200 spearmen to go to Caesarea at 9 tonight. Also, provide mounts so they can put Paul on them and bring him safely to Felix the governor." Here I want to point something out to all of us. The Romans were doing more good for the cause of Christ than were the Jews, God's chosen people. The people who were stuck in their religiosity were persecuting. The people who wanted to do good were doing good. They weren't necessarily following Christ, but their actions were more God-honoring than those people who claimed to be the most religious people of the day. And this means something very significant for us as Christians, particularly Christians who have been a part of the established church. And what I mean by established church is those Christians who have been Christians for X number of years, who believe that there is a certain way to do everything, who are stuck in that way of doing things, and who are constantly judging and condemning the world for not being more like the church. This is what the Jews were doing here. And the Romans were safeguarding Paul against the Jews. I know several people who don't claim to be religious. They don't claim a religion at all, but they do things that are more God-honoring than the things that people who claim to be Christians do, or than the things many people who claim to be Christians do, is because they're wrapped up in this cultural Christian religiosity. And that actually leads them to be persecutors rather than stand with the persecuted. It actually causes them to do things that are more self-centered than God-centered. Now, people who don't love Christ, who aren't known by Christ in a relational way, they can do things that honor Christ. It doesn't mean they're saved. There will be punishment because we can't earn our salvation. We can't earn our way. We know that salvation is by grace through faith alone. It can only be given as a gift, and we only experience it as we have faith in the person of Christ. But those who claim to follow Christ ought to receive this warning, that if I am stuck in my religiosity, it's at least a sign that I am not walking with Jesus. And it may be a sign that I really don't know Jesus at all. I fooled myself into thinking that I know Jesus because I'm being religious. But that's just us trying to earn salvation. That's all that is. That's a works-based righteousness. Salvation is a gift. Faith is the evidence of that salvation, of that gift being received, and good works come out of that. And we really don't have the right to judge people based on their works. If Christ offers life to sinful people, we also must offer life to sinful people, and it really is that simple. Now, thank you so much for joining me this morning, and I will see you again tomorrow.